You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. With more coverage on Hurricane Ida in our third hour, on what will probably be a bit of a marathon as this storm is slowly ticking down the miles towards Louisiana. Still a good distance away yet. It will hit there tomorrow afternoon by the looks of things. Our best indications show that it will be around mid-afternoon that the landfall will occur. That still could change as the storm draws nearer, but of course as that angle narrows, the margin of error will also narrow, and we'll get a better idea of the exact proportions of landfall and of the storm's intensity. What we know right now is in front of us you can see that the eye is starting to appear, particularly in the last hour. The eye temperature has been around minus 50 degrees Celsius, so still hasn't been pushing down very much just yet, but it is starting to become more apparent compared to all of those cloud tops. Now there are cloud tops, convective bursts firing around the eye on opposite ends really, which is a sure sign of intensification, possibly rapid. And currently the National Hurricane Center has it at 80 miles per hour and a pressure of 985. They'll be updating at the end of the hour, so we'll be able to carry that information to you as soon as they update. Also, we'll have the latest news on Nora, which is also a hurricane in the eastern Pacific. Hurricane warnings out along the coast of Mexico. But right now, my name is Nathan Foy in the studio once again. I'm joined by my team this hour. We have Ethan, Elliot, Joey, Euxinada, and Walter. Hello to you all once again. And the next stage of this storm appears to be underway.
Yep, and this is the stage that this is the stage that everyone was worrying about really when it really started to get its act together in the Gulf. And it hasn't even hit the most optimal conditions yet, and it won't be doing so for like the next 6-12 hours, I would say. But do you agree?
That what will happen in 6 to 12 hours, sorry?
Sorry, that it will hit the most optimal conditions.
I haven't been following that closely, but it can't be far off. The loop eddy, which is in there, probably with a small area of much higher sea surface temperatures, pushing 31, maybe 32 degrees Celsius. Heard some people saying earlier. Wind shear is low. Relative humidity, I assume, is pretty good. And let's just show that cone once again that Ethan had, that was recently updated by our team. The latest cone shows, according to our team, expecting a 145 mile an hour peak and a 140 mile per hour landfall. We'll see what it will be very interesting to see what the National Hurricane Center come up with their next intensity forecast. That I think all eyes will be on that when we get towards the end of the hour. And also we'll have information on Tropical Depression 10, whether that has become a tropical storm or not, out in the open Atlantic. That would just be another distraction for us. We're taking questions all the way through our stream, so don't be afraid to send your messages in. And when it gets closer to landfall, we'll probably be relying on a lot of your comments too to deliver us observations on the ground, information, and just anything that you think that we should broadcast, and of course questions for the team. Camilla says, will Hurricane Ida become another Hurricane Camille? That's what a lot of people were comparing it to in recent days. Can it still be compared?
I don't actually think so, because Camille is about 60 years ago.
Granted, it does have a pretty impressive intensification rate ahead of it, and the path is pretty similar. They're both going over the loop current, so I do think that it could draw some comparisons.
And another question, what is likely to be the maximum storm surge we can expect? National Hurricane Center currently projecting 10 to 15 feet in parts of Louisiana. When do we think Ida will make landfall? Looks like tomorrow afternoon. Contact says, can this delay of rapid intensification lower the ceiling of the storm? But they still think 145 mile an hour is on the table.
And we can't really rule out the storm already starting to go under rapid intensification at this moment. So, that it could lower the ceiling for the storm if it is going under rapid intensification, albeit not by much at all.
Let's check the super close-up visible again. There it is right now. That's the eye down there, and the convection that's blowing up all around it.
I do have a little bit of an update from the recon. It looks as though they have gone a pressure of 982.
Okay.
Yikes.
I'll post it in the section so you guys can see.
Well, that's likely extrapolated pressure for now. We'll have to wait for the drop zone to come in, but seeing the extrapolated pressures lower that much over the course of a single pass is not a good sign at all.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
So that's a drop of 3 millibars.
Yeah, I
When
just
you
posted it.
Go ahead.
No, you can continue. I was going to say I just posted it.
Yeah, when you consider that this thing isn't even over the peak ocean heat content yet, and it still has like even more than a day over water, this is definitely concerning to see it already intensifying at a rate such as this.
Another super close up here showing the very high cloud tops in some parts there. Brief minus 80 degrees there in the pink. The yellow zone there in the center, that's where the eye is. Still only getting around minus 50s in terms of the eye temperature. The higher the temperature, the further down we can see, the more perfect the eye is. I suppose you can put it in simple terms, really. John Curtis says, many warned that Dorian was not survivable. Does Ida have the same sentiment for those that do not evacuate? There is quite a difference between Dorian wiping out tiny islands of the Bahamas and Ida going on to affect the Louisiana coast. I mean, Dorian was I would say it was less survivable because of the fact that there was there was nowhere really to go on those islands. People should get out of the area that will be experiencing. There's some mandatory evacuations out, and there's a good reason for that. Real Cruz says, is a Category 5 landfall, Category 5 Hurricane Ida before landfall possible?
I would say it's possible. I wouldn't expect it at the moment, but honestly, over the water that it's going over, with the conditions it has in the environment, it's possible. However, I think most people are generally agreeing that Cat 4 is the likely peak at the moment. It could change, though. And Cat 5 or Cat 4 impacts from this are expected to be very dangerous, so people should be taking it seriously regardless.
More questions that are coming in just now. Mike says, how prepared should citizens of Youngsville be? See, the storm will be passing near it. Now, you'll have to help me here because I am not familiar with that location. Is it right near the storm's track in Louisiana?
I'm checking right now.
Oh, I see it. It's just south of Lafayette. Okay. So that area should be on the western side of the storm, hopefully. I say hopefully because the western side will be weaker and less extensive than the eastern side. The rain profile will have a sharp gradient to it. So fine lines really when you're on the western side of the storm when it makes landfall, because you could get a huge amount of rain, or if the storm moves a few miles east you might get not that much. But my guess right now is that there'll probably be a decent amount of rain, maybe 8 inches, and can't rule out hurricane force winds yet. There's still more questions about eye temperature, but from what I'm seeing, there's actually, yes, you see those latest pictures there, not where you think the eye center is, but just east of there, temperatures have increased a little more, now minus 50. That yellow zone on the right hand side. So maybe the eye is right down there. Overall, the eye temperature is rising, but pretty slowly. So, team, do we think that Ida is undergoing a period of rapid intensification right now?
Definitely.
It is possible, yeah.
If not, it will be starting to very soon.
Yeah, it will be.
Well, that seems like a pretty conclusive answer from the team there. Is it true that most major hurricanes strike North America in late August and later in the Caribbean? There must be climatological numbers on that, but we can only really go on what we perceive, and it is generally late August, early September for the North American continent, really. But they happen quite often later than that as well. Just that they're a different type of storm, really. This has been going for quite a while. It has origins from a tropical wave. The later season storms have different origins from Central America and sometimes the subtropics. Is it?
I'm not sure if it's been mentioned, but we just had an ASCAP pass, not on Ida, but on Tropical Depression 10.
Oh boy, don't say it.
That does support tropical storms data.
Oh God, well.
You have to laugh, otherwise you'd cry about that one. So they might call that a tropical storm at the top of the hour, so hold on.
We'll keep you updated on that.
That'll be another one to add to the list.
This is the wide shot now of Ida on the right hand side. Doesn't look that impressive when you zoom out, to be honest, compared to Nora in the eastern Pacific, which is really blowing up massive cloud tops, although Nora is now the weaker storm. Both hurricanes.
ATCF has it at 80 miles per hour.
Yep, both Category 1 hurricanes. Nora has hurricane warnings out along the coast of Mexico. So we have hurricane warnings on both ocean fronts of the North American continent, in the Atlantic and in the Pacific.
I must say, looking at the storm's current structure, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Hurricane Lily back in 2002. Any
A
thoughts on
little
that?
bit. A little bit, but I don't really like that storm.
Lily was kind of strange because it was very small for being in the Gulf.
Hmm.
We'll have the
At such a
National
high
Hurricane
intensity, that is.
Center's update in about half an hour, maybe, if they get it a little bit early. But for the time being, we're just continuing to look at the storm, basically. They'll update in about half an hour, just a little bit over that. And then we'll probably have general discussion about that. And then later on, we'll get the model runs as the new 12Z runs come in about 2 hours from now. If you're hearing any news on the ground, if you're in any of the areas that will be affected by this storm, please let us know, as the news comes out from all kinds of different places. So let's see if we can go to some of the cameras right now, again, just to take you on a little tour. This is Laguna Beach, Florida, looking out towards the ocean. And distant clouds and pretty hazy by the looks of things, but sunny. Over to Destin. Quite a few people out. No one in the water. Hopefully it stays that way. It can be dangerous. Over to Pensacola Beach. And you can see much more cloud cover there and moving rather quickly as well. That is some fringe clouds associated with the hurricane. The sun's back out in New Orleans. There is a bank of cloud that's approaching though. Again, the fringe of the hurricane, which is on its way now. And let's see if we can have another look from Grand Isle. This one takes a while to load. Grand Isle, Louisiana. Still looking very clear there.
Now, does anyone here know when the next reconnaissance plane is scheduled to take off?
I'm checking.
Yeah, I certainly don't have that information with me. More questions. Are there any factors that might prevent this from reaching that predicted Category 4 status? Itself. Could you explain that in more detail?
Eyewall replacement cycle. That's it.
Eyewall replacement cycle. I don't know. We look at that right now. Intensification clearly going on. You could also say that it might go faster than forecast still. I mean, that would limit its intensification chances just that little bit more. Killer Cobra says people are coming to Jackson, Mississippi. Is that not a place to come to? ? Jackson, you have it under a tropical storm icon on your cone. I imagine rainfall amounts will be pretty significant there. 4 to 8 inches perhaps.
I'd suggest moving a little further inland than Jackson, because that's actually going to be a pretty big hotspot for flooding, it's looking like. So I'd suggest going further to the west or further to the east than Jackson.
And do we think that we'll have the M curse this year? Let's get past I first.
What do you mean the M curse?
We don't talk about the M curse.
Yeah.
We've also Oh, by the way, Laura should have been Marco. Just throwing that out there. Moving on, B-Miller says, what does Ida look like on the microwave imagery right now? Is the eyeball on the imagery completely wrapped around at this point? Last I saw it was. At the lower levels. And Ian says, do we have any idea why the Western Pacific is kinda quiet?
Mainly because MJO and is not in a favorable spot in the world for the Western Pacific right now. Right now, the MJO is favorable for the Atlantic. So basically, Western Pacific is seeing some sinking air, and that's basically helping suppress any typhoon activity there.
And that's going to continue for a little while. Nothing on the forecast for a good week or more. So that is going to be one quiet part of the world. Again, visible imagery here showing the extent of that eye and all that convection bubbling around. Those cloud tops really blowing up. And again, on that close-up imagery, you can see little bits of green now starting to appear there. Oh wow, this is really starting to go down now. The eye temperature is now minus 44.
That
What was that
warmed quite
value
a
an
bit.
hour ago?
Sorry?
What was that value an hour ago?
It was about minus 52 an hour ago.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that eye is about to open up.
Yeah, that warmed really quickly.
That's not good.
So I would imagine this is going to be a rather important few hours for the storm, as we may well be witnessing it coming completely out. It may not. We'll have to see what happens, but minus 52 to minus 44, the warmer the eye gets, the stronger the storm likely is. It's one indirect guide to summarizing its intensity. And we'll get information from the National Hurricane Center, who will be updating fairly soon. Sometimes they come out with the advisories very early, so we'll keep watch on that. So we've got 3 questions really regarding Nora. Will the storm have intensified any more? Will the hurricane warnings be extended? For Hurricane Ida, will they pull the trigger and intensify it a little bit more? Probably not, given Recon's lack of info. Although 982 that they got, the extrapolated I think it was, might twist their arm a little bit. I doubt it.
I think
And
this storm might be similar to Laura, where the pressure rapidly dropped, but the winds took a bit to catch up.
okay. And for Tropical Depression 10, as we get our COD imagery back, which I'm thankful for, whether Tropical Depression 10 will become a tropical storm. I think we won't be able to cope if that happens. It'll all be too much for us. But we'll have the latest information as soon as it comes in. Here's the COD imagery then, and you can see there the bigger picture once again, and the eye starting to become more clear on that wide shot. And questions about how large the eye is. Recon said earlier that it was around 24 miles. Satellite at the time tended to agree, and I don't think Satellite has changed much. I would suggest maybe about 21 or 22 miles right now. but that is just a guess. This is Force 13 Live, continuing coverage on Hurricane Ida. I think we'll have some parts of our coverage that will be quieter than others. People in the background on our team are always looking behind the scenes at what's going on, trying to find new information, data, things to bring up on our stream, information on the ground, and many more things besides. You can join our community server though on Discord, discord.gg/force13 for chat there at any time with our rather large community at this point. They will all be talking about the nitty-gritty of Hurricane Ida, and of course they're always there even when we're off the air, but we're going to be staying on for a good while by the looks of things. Let's reiterate some of the warnings. Hurricane warning is in effect right now for Intracoastal City to the mouth of the Pearl River, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and metropolitan New Orleans. That's actually an old update. Let me just get that latest information. Well, that is the information. Storm surge warning for east of Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge to the Mississippi-Alabama border, Vermilion Bay, Lake Bourne, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas. Storm surge watch for Sabine Pass to Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, Louisiana, and Mobile Bay. Hurricane watch for Cameron, Louisiana to west of Intracoastal City. The mouth of the Pearl River to the Mississippi-Alabama border. And tropical storm warning for the same areas. And a tropical storm watch for the Mississippi-Alabama border to the Alabama-Florida border.
We just had a recon flight take off. Not for Ida, though.
Right.
You can guess what the storm is headed to.
Nora?
Maybe.
Don't tell me.
Because if it was
heading
gonna
to Nora.
if it was gonna be heading for the tropical depression, I would have just you know, I would have told everyone on the air that this is what your tax dollars are going to, but it's going to Nora. That's all right.
Nathan?
As for Nora, by the way, just to read out those warnings, hurricane warning for Manzanillo northward to San Blas, Mexico. Hurricane watch for south of Manzanillo to Lazaro Cardenas and north of San Blas to Mazatlan. Tropical storm warning for Tecpan de Galeana to Manzanillo and north of San Blas to Mazatlan. Over there, they are expecting 4 to 8 inches of rain over the Baja California Sur Peninsula, isolated maximums of 12. Over Mexico, Guerrero, Michoacan, Colima, and Jalisco, 8 to 12 inches with isolated maximums of 20. Pretty similar numbers to Ida, actually, in terms of rainfall. And we'll wait on their updates, which shouldn't be too far away, in the next half hour. We'll take some questions soon, but we're going to go to another short break now, and then we'll see what the latest is from the National Hurricane Center. Stay tuned. Over the years, we've done updates and live coverage on literally hundreds of tropical cyclones, and in recent years, particularly in 2020, launching out in other regional channels, doing weather updates and coverages there as well. We also launched our Earthquakes channel in 2020 and are going forward on all fronts in 2021 with a community that's grown remarkably in the last year. But it's not just about you being along for the ride, we want you to enjoy yourself as well as an Ultimate fan, and that's why we've lined up a big chain of benefits for each various stages on our Ultimate Fan program. Force 13 Live, we continue our coverage on Hurricane Ida predominantly, which is intensifying and looks like potentially quite rapidly over the Gulf of Mexico. There's the latest visible imagery right now, which is what we were looking at just before, of this 85 mile per hour hurricane, pressure 985 at the last update, although it's probably a little bit stronger now. My name's Nathan Foy, joined by our team once again as we continue discussing this as we come up to the National Hurricane Center's update window. And what we've been seeing more than anything else is the eye starting to come out more and more on the infrared. Look at that. That's current. So that's quite clearly the eye. So, well, make of that what you will. And I'd like to thank Kat for their support, by the way, as well, on our coverage this afternoon. This morning, of course, local time. We will be here for quite a while by the looks of things, and all of this wouldn't be possible without our viewers supporting us. I think we've done a lot of things since the last 5 or 6 years when we first started doing live streams for these big hurricane events. Also, more questions. Do we think that Ida is explosively intensifying?
Well,
That's overdoing it a bit.
explosively intensifying. That's not really a term that we use, but it also depends on what you see as explosively intensifying. But yes, as you said, Nathan, I don't think it's explosively intensifying or near that rate at the current time. But it definitely seems like it is getting its act together and is starting to head on to an intensifying trend.
I imagine all you guys have seen this imagery now. What do we make of it?
If the MHCs still go with 85 miles per hour, I really don't think it's 85, despite what Recon's finding. I think it's stronger.
That's just your gut, though.
Yeah, it will take some time for winds to mix down to the surface, to be honest, but it will come in time.
His pressure values are constantly falling in this storm. Quite interesting.
Yeah, wind lag is preventing winds from ramping up significantly just yet, but I am pretty sure that that will happen at some point today.
What was the last eye temperature that we read out?
Minus 44.
How long ago was that?
About 20 minutes ago.
So
Wow,
now we're getting readings of minus 39.
Yeah, it's clearing pretty decently at this point.
Yep.
So that has fallen about 13 degrees in an hour. If that was to continue, then it would be at 0 in 3 hours.
We have a question. Will the surge top the protective levee in New Orleans?
And thank you very much, John, for supporting us this afternoon as well. As to regards the question, I think those in New Orleans and authorities are somewhat confident in the levee system there, aren't they? But the eastern, I mean, the way it's looking right now.
Updates out on Tropical Depression 10. They are not calling it a tropical storm.
Oh, that's a relief.
And the forecast peak does remain at 40 miles per hour in both 36 and 24 hours out from now before weakening down to 30 knots. And then their day 5 point is now a post-tropical cyclone.
All right.
Initial intensity is 35 miles per hour, 1007 millibars.
But regarding the levee system that we were just talking about there, what do we really think about the New Orleans area? At the moment, I don't think it would be extremely bad because it's going quite a bit west, but the cone could shift just that little bit further east, which could put big danger to the New Orleans area, I'd imagine.
No.
As of right now, I think they're talking about either a 4 to 7 or a 6 to 9 foot storm surge for the area out east. But we don't have Nelson with us, which is the problem right now. He'll have all the information for the New Orleans area. I'm sure he'll be with us at some point soon.
Speaking of Nelson, he's preparing to evacuate currently. So
Oh, he is?
yeah, so
Yes,
it's,
yes.
I don't think he'll be on the stream today.
Wow. And he was the way I was hearing it, I don't think he was really expecting to.
Just shows how potentially devastating the storm could be.
Fairly shortly, we should have the updates on the 2 hurricanes from the National Hurricane Center. Let's take a look again at this close-up satellite imagery to see how things are looking. We're watching very closely to see those eye temperatures, if they're continuing to increase. It was minus 39, it's now minus 35. So the eye is clearing out very quickly here.
We do have a new microwave imagery, which is at about 12:30 p.m. UTC.
Let's just try and get this on here. I have to do a lot of shuffling about to get some imagery on. There it is right now. Yep, that was 12:30 UTC. It's just past 2:30 p.m. UTC now. So that was the microwave earlier. But I think we're getting a little bit bowled over with this latest satellite imagery trend, with what is now a minus 35 Celsius eye temperature. And you can see how those colors have changed in those latest frames. The greens going into sort of the bluish colors there, the sea green, getting more towards 0. Explosive Pie says, how much will Lake Charles be affected by Ida? And thanks very much for supporting us today as well. Lake Charles, I think, will get away with it a lot more than they did during Laura, for instance, just to get the closest example. As it stands on the forecast, Lake Charles shouldn't do too badly. They might get some tropical storm force winds or gusts, but in terms of rainfall, they're on the dry side, so they shouldn't get more than maybe 2 or 3 inches of rain. And as you can see on the National Hurricane Center cone, it's on the very edge of the cone. Of course, that means it could still track along the western side of that cone, but it's unlikely. And we'll see if that cone changes any at the next advisory from the National Hurricane Center. So they've kept Tropical Depression 10 as a depression, despite Ethan claiming earlier, and I haven't seen it, so I'm just going off his word, that ASCAT got tropical storm force winds.
Multiple barbs did support 35 knots for 10L. I'll just post this pass in the live discussion room for you, Nathan.
All right.
I'm just reading through the NHC's discussion. They say the initial intensity is held at 35 miles per hour, consistent with the Dvorak satellite intensity estimates from TFAB and SAB. and the 1156 UTC Metop A ASCAP pass.
And that's the one we're looking at, is it?
Yeah. I'm not
Wow.
sure what they're saying 30 knots, because that says 35 knots right there.
Let me just have a proper look at this off the screen as we direct the viewers back to that hurricane center cone. Just looking at it very closely, I'm seeing lots of 30 knot barbs. I can't see any 35. Oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are 6 uncontaminated 35 knot barbs. So yes, I'm with you.
Not sure what they're on, but... And their forecast cone is out, by the way. And it does have it pretty much going due north.
Yep.
Made that turn towards the north. NOAA 3, one of the recon planes, I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but they are now done with the storm and are now returning back to base. The other plane is indeed going in for another pass, though, so... I'm sure that we'll have another plane taking off fairly soon.
Yep, and this is going on right now, so they may well delay their... I mean, I say delay their advisory, but we're used to them coming out early with their advisories. Of course, they'll put it out on time, but sometimes they can do it like a whole half hour before. And so we sort of get used to it, and then when we get recon that are always in it, they usually push it out a little later. We're still able to take questions though, and all the way through this stream we'll be able to do that. Warrior X says, do you think Invest 97 will form soon? It looks pretty good at the moment. I haven't followed that one very closely. I know that our team have always had the chances up on it, and yet it's never seemed to have formed.
It's got a 60% chance of development according to the NHC. Personally, I think that's a little bit high.
Now 97L is the one up there near the top that we're talking about here. Tropical Depression 10 is down there at the bottom, and the edge of Ida is still visible on the left hand side of that screen.
Most models do have it making a gradual turn towards the northwest, gradually. So maybe something will happen, but it's going far up north now, so it's probably going to be post-tropical in nature, if anything.
More questions. Ian says, do you think the Atlantic naming list will reach the auxiliary list? That's what happens now when we reach the end of the conventional list. There's no Greek alphabet anymore, thank goodness. There's an auxiliary list. But do you think we'll get there? It's tough. What are we up to? Ida. We'll get close.
I'll be frank. I don't think we'll make it.
I think we'll get real close, but I don't think we will. What intensity do we think Ida is at right now? Is it a weak category 2 or a strong category 1? Ethan, you're inclined to raise it. Would you say 90 miles per hour or more?
90. I wouldn't call Cat 2 just yet.
What does everyone else think in our group here?
I'd say 90 as well. 85 to 90 currently.
I would go 85 since Recon isn't showing very strong winds just yet, but I think it will catch up soon. But I do think that 85 is the best estimate for now, in my opinion at least.
I'd go with 85 as well. Because the Recon really do find 85 inside.
Yeah, somewhere between 85 and 90 is probably reasonable.
Uh, 15 minutes till the scheduled update time as we continue to look at that satellite imagery. Let's see if we've got any new frames on the eye temperature. I think it's gonna level off there, minus 37. Earlier it bottomed out at minus 35, or topped out at minus 35, and I think it will probably go down again shortly. But quite clearly a development that's occurred in the last 2 hours is the appearance of what might be a pretty mean eye when it comes out properly.
Absolutely. And I imagine the NHC will be updating pretty shortly. Not seeing anything from them just yet.
View again from New Orleans right now. That's how things are looking there in town. Still a few people around. But generally it's been quiet. I've been monitoring this webcam for some time. Rained overnight. Hasn't been much this morning, but there is a band on the way not far, which will probably drop some more. Oh. That's an elephant. An ad came up there, I think. And there's a look once again at the latest satellite imagery. But in general, the webcams won't be showing very much over the course of today. Some of them might show something tonight where they have good lighting. By tomorrow morning, I imagine they'll all be showing the approach of this storm. And I know that I think some of our team have all kinds of other cameras as well that they'll be wanting to show us when we get closer to the time. Alright, let's see if we have any more questions. I don't think we have any just now, but you can start your message with Force 13 all in text, and it will light up for us in our chat section on our stream. We'll be streaming probably indefinitely for the duration of this storm, really, but you can catch up on our Discord server with our community chat, discord.gg/Force13. That's where our community tends to gather these days, and I'll probably go there when my presenting shift finishes much later on today. We have 4 streamers that will be taking us throughout the next 18 hours or so, so we've got things pretty well planned out to make sure that we do as much wall-to-wall coverage as we can without killing ourselves doing it. But there we go. We have some more questions. How much surge is expected around New Orleans? I wonder if someone could bring up that surge graphic that the National Hurricane Center does.
I'll get that up on my screen here shortly.
Yeah, that would be very useful.
I've got it up just here.
You have?
Thank you.
Alright, let's take a look at this.
Sorry, gotta interrupt. The update is out on Hurricane Nora. The government of Mexico has extended their hurricane watch northward from Mazatlan to Tupolobamo, and extended the tropical storm warning northward to Mazatlan to Altata. A tropical storm watch has also been issued for the Baja California Sur from Cabo San Lucas to La Paz. The government of Mexico has discontinued the hurricane watch south of Manzanillo, and has discontinued the tropical storm warning south of Las Cadarnas. They are running with an initial intensity of 80 miles per hour and a pressure of 981 millibars, and they do forecast now, once again, a 90 mile per hour peak. So a strengthening Nora headed for Mexico.
They're trying to outdo each other in terms of pressure readings, aren't they?
Yeah.
Seems like it.
And we'll get Ida's update shortly. But Joey, those storm surge graphics there.
Yeah, so 10 to 15 feet of storm surge is what the National Hurricane Center have as their highest forecast.
Updates out.
Oh, on Ida?
Yes, update is out on Ida. The tropical storm warning has been extended eastward along the northern Gulf Coast to the Alabama-Florida border. The hurricane watch along the coast of Mississippi from the mouth of the Pearl River to the Mississippi-Alabama border has been discontinued. The hurricane watch along the coast of Louisiana west of Intercoastal City has also been discontinued. The storm surge watch from Sabine Pass to Rockefeller Wildlife Refugee Center in Louisiana has also been discontinued. They are running with 85 miles per hour and a pressure of 984 millibars, and they have downgraded the peak to 130 miles per hour.
But they have 2 points that say 130 miles per hour, implying there could be strengthening in between.
Yes. And they
I think
they
that's
do
a good
say
call,
in their-
by the way, and I think that's the right call.
NHC do note in their header, Ida expected to begin rapidly intensifying soon. Preparations to protect life and property should be rushed to completion today in the warning area along the northern Gulf Coast.
Absolutely right. So now I'll be scrambling to update the bottom bar with the new information. So I don't know if you guys want to just discuss that for a little while.
Well, this is certainly a interesting advisory, and I'm sure that we'll get the forecast cone up as soon as we possibly can. But I wonder if with all these watches and warnings, maybe perhaps an eastward shift happened.
I wouldn't be surprised considering it doesn't look like it's going as northwest as I think most are expecting it to.
So just to confirm, there's nowhere now that have a hurricane watch for Ida.
I don't think there is. The forecast landfall areas has actually shifted slightly to the west,
Oh.
calling now for landfall southwest of Huma as a Category 4 hurricane.
Yep, so hurricane and tropical storm watches are all discontinued, so anyone who's in any kind of warning now are actually in a warning and not a watch.
Further on, later down the line, they do forecast Ida to weaken down to a tropical storm north of Baton Rouge, enter western Mississippi as a tropical storm, weaken down to a tropical depression west of Jackson, continue as a tropical depression over southeastern Memphis, over Nashville, and turn post-tropical over southern Kentucky, when it will quickly move off towards the east over the mid-Atlantic states and out to sea. I'll imagine that the NHC will be releasing their more technical side of things shortly, and we'll have a better idea of what they're saying.
Yep, I'm still updating all of my resources for everyone to see shortly. And that's probably what you're hearing just there. So, newly issued tropical storm watch in Mexico for Cabo San Lucas to La Paz.
By the looks of it, NHC do call now for a tropical storm landfall around 65 to 60 miles per hour in mainland Mexico around a day 4 and day 5 near Guaymas? However you pronounce that? It's
I'm
gonna thread the
guessing
needle
that's
between-
I'm guessing that's way
Yeah.
up in the Gulf of California.
Yes.
Wow. Don't tell me that
Probably
could be a
was.
US threat too, God.
It will be, but it will be primarily for rainfall. This could cause a lot of rainfall issues in Arizona and New Mexico, as they frequently do.
Yeah. This is what
So
happens when we don't have other people that do the text in the background. It's the host having to write it all out. I'm nearly finished with that, and then I will be able to divert my attention back to the stream. Yes, Ethan?
85 miles per hour, 984 millibars as of the latest NHC update. I don't know if any of their values have changed since the last advisory. I'm just going back
yes.
to check.
Yes, it did. For landfall, they're now issuing. They downgraded the landfall winds 130 miles per hour.
Yeah, I already know about that. 89, 87 what they had in the previous one. So that pressure's gone down 3 millibars. Movement was northwest at 16. So yeah, that movement vector does remain the same. So it just appears that the pressure continues to drop, and I imagine that the winds will continue to increase.
All right, let's see if there's any questions we can take in light of that new information. When will they issue tornado watches?
Not till maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Jack
Tomorrow
King
morning.
says lots of wrecks reported eastbound on Interstate 10.
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
It only delays the evacuation process even more.
Someone also asked for an eye temperature update. Let me have a quick look. It's around the same. It's minus 37.
NHC's discussion is out. They do note both NOAA and Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft, somewhat surprisingly, have not found a significantly deepening tropical cyclone yet, but given the very recent increase in organization and structure, the winds are likely to catch up with a satellite appearance very soon. So perhaps some intensification is on the way.
Well, it clearly is. Alright, well, that's where we're at right now. We're going to take a short break here. We'll be back in a few minutes to collect our thoughts and run another hour, at least, and many more besides, on Hurricane Ida as it continues northwestwards through the Gulf of Mexico. Now a pressure of 984 and winds of 85 miles per hour. Stay tuned, we'll be back in a few moments.